Hello, everyone, and welcome to the thru Recovery Life Podcast. My name is John A., and I am an alcoholic in West Palm Beach, Florida. My sobriety date is September 13th of 1982. We'll start off with a quote by Albert Einstein. If you cannot explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Let's start with a moment of silence to reflect on what we're about to do here today, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In this session of the thru Recovery Life Podcast, we are going to discuss emotional sobriety. What is it? How do we get it? And how do we maintain it? We started with one recovery meeting on Zoom in late March of 2020, the day after the pandemic shut everything down in Florida and around the world. We didn't know anything about Zoom at that time, but we quickly learned and did very well on the platform because we have a message of recovery that helps many people. And we are just learning about producing podcasts, but we are quick learners and definitely have a message of recovery that we feel can benefit many people as well. We want to adhere to the anonymity tradition by making our YouTube video podcasts unlisted so that only people with the link can access them, and the link will most likely be distributed only to other members of AA or those seeking sobriety. And we call ourselves the Zoo Crew because even though we are deadly serious about recovery and sobriety, we want to show others, mainly newcomers, that sobriety is not boring at all. You can visit our website at thezooCrew.org, thezooCrew.org, thezooCrew.org. Please feel free to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified when we upload new videos. Feel free to comment and share this video with others in recovery or looking to get sober. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in our podcast, please send us an email. That information will be in the video. You know, you could be doing anything else right now, but instead you're listening to our podcast. And we are happy to have you here making this investment in your sobriety. You're making a huge deposit into your IRA, your individual recovery account, by being here and showing a commitment to your sobriety. Keep making these deposits no matter how small, because one day you may have a situation that will require you to make a huge withdrawal, and you don't want your IRA to be depleted. And the reason we have these workshops and podcasts is to work on the underlying issues behind alcoholism. If alcohol was the problem, most of us would be cured by now. Alcohol was but a symptom. And oftentimes, the ties that bind us are more mental than physical. For example, in India, one method of training elephants was to tie a baby elephant to a tree trunk with a thick, heavy chain, thereby severely restricting its movement and almost immobilizing it. After a long time of this treatment, all an elephant handler had to do was tie a rope around the elephant's neck and put a stake in the ground to keep the elephant in place. The elephant was so conditioned to thinking it was unable to move that some of them have been found dead in place after a fire. All the elephant had to do was try to move, and it would have escaped the fire, but it thought it was still chained to a tree. And by taking the 12 steps, you will be freeing yourself from what's keeping you from being happily and usefully whole. And this is from the 12 and 12, page 15. AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. You will also be breaking the ties that bind you and keep you from staying sober and growing. And it is very easy to stop drinking. Everyone listening to this podcast has stopped drinking at some point, even before coming into AA. Even if it's for 1 hour or one day, everyone has stopped drinking. The problem is staying stopped. And that's where AA comes in. Alcoholics Anonymous is about helping us to stay sober for the rest of our lives, one day at a time. So how do we stay stopped? The answer is in the 12 steps of AA. There may still come a time when you will have the obsession to drink, but if you have invested enough into your IRA, your individual recovery account, your higher power will help you deal with that obsession and help you not drink no matter what. But sobriety is not about just stopping drinking. Sobriety is about changing our behavior, our actions, and our mindset so that we can be happy, joyous, and free from the obsession of alcohol. When we start losing our emotional sobriety, we can usually sense that there is something wrong with us. And this is from the 12 and 12, page 90. It is a spiritual axiom that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. If somebody hurts us and we are sore, we are in the wrong also. But are there no exceptions to this rule? What about justifiable anger? If somebody cheats us, aren't we entitled to be mad? Can't we be properly angry with self-righteous folk? For us of AA, these are dangerous exceptions. We have found that justified anger ought to be left to those better qualified to handle it. I realize that there is much truth to the statement quoted above. Whenever I am disturbed, angry, upset, hungry, etc., there is something wrong with me. But what I find to be wrong with me is the fact that I am disturbed, angry, upset, hungry, etc. I don't agree with the part of the statement that says I am in the wrong as well. If someone cuts me off in traffic, I will be very upset. My emotional sobriety will be off for a short length of time. I will have to take action to get my mind right again. But if I was in the proper lane and obeying the traffic laws, I don't think I was in the wrong when this person cut me off. But let's get back to emotional sobriety. What is emotional sobriety? Having emotional sobriety doesn't mean that we are going to be happy, joyous, and free 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One important but often overlooked part of recovery is the need for emotional sobriety. Since it's common for people with substance abuse disorders to turn to alcohol to self-medicate their emotional distress, learning to process emotions in a healthy way is an essential step in preventing relapse. Emotional sobriety is about accepting what you are feeling. It is about staying sober no matter what you are feeling or may be going through. And don't make a permanent decision based on a temporary solution. Life happens to you whether you're an alcoholic or non-alcoholic. And this is from the Big Book, page 417. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Many people refer to the paragraph above as the acceptance prayer. I simply call it an excerpt from Dr. Paul's story. And I don't have to agree or disagree with it, since it's part of his story and not mine. But I will tell you that it doesn't apply to me, mainly because acceptance is not the answer to all my problems. If it works for Dr. Paul, then it works for him. I prefer to live the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living the serenity prayer helps me to maintain my emotional sobriety. When confronted with a situation, the first thing I do is ask for the wisdom to determine if it's something I need to accept or if it's something that I can take action on. I save a lot of time and futility by living that way. And I think the serenity prayer is one of the main tools for keeping our emotional sobriety. Let's look at how childhood trauma can affect our emotional sobriety in adulthood. Often, the inability to manage emotions in a constructive way is rooted in traumatic childhood experiences. A study conducted a few years ago looked at how different types of trauma experienced in childhood affected a person's adult behavior patterns. The study found strong links between childhood trauma and adult depression, anxiety, addiction, and relationship difficulties. Children use their surroundings to develop their understanding of the world, creating patterns that naturally carry through to their adult years. When a child is exposed to a traumatic environment, they develop unhealthy coping mechanisms because they aren't exposed to the positive and nurturing influences that would help them make healthier choices. For example, a child who is being abused at home may be afraid to tell someone about the abuse because they don't want to be separated from their siblings or see their parents put in jail. They may be attracted to alcohol as a way to temporarily numb their physical and emotional pain while keeping their secret. Over time, the alcohol becomes the solution to all their problems. Drinking to deal with the abuse at home turns into drinking to deal with a stressful day at work, an argument with a friend, or being nervous about a first date. And gender expectations can also make it more difficult to achieve emotional sobriety. Our culture often equates emotions with femininity. From the time they are little boys, men are encouraged to be strong and brave by not talking about their feelings. As a result, men often feel that they now have nowhere to turn when they are sad, angry, or frustrated. For men in recovery, 12-step groups such as Alcoholics Anonymous can provide a safe, judgment-free place to work towards better managing their emotions. And please, don't forget that many of these traumatic incidents can be dealt with through the 12 steps, but if outside help is necessary, please do not hesitate to get it. All right, so what is emotional sobriety? Since no two people are alike, everyone experiences recovery a bit differently. However, emotional sobriety in general means building a healthy, emotionally balanced life, accepting the present as it is, seeing struggle and grief as natural parts of life that offer an opportunity for personal growth, refusing to dwell on the past, and not letting other people's limited perceptions of our expectations define our self-esteem or negatively impact our behavior. And people who are actively abusing alcohol often struggle to manage their emotional lives. They may exhibit the following traits. They have trouble regulating intense negative emotions such as anger. They may act out in impulsive or dangerous ways when faced with emotionally challenging situations. They struggle to maintain intimate connections with others, and being unable to roll with the punches when encountering obstacles at work or home. And they have a generally pessimistic worldview. Developing emotional sobriety often involves several different activities. As I stated earlier, achieving emotional sobriety doesn't mean that an individual must be happy and upbeat 24 hours, 7 days a week. You're not going to be happy, joyous, and free all the time. It's completely natural to feel a wide range of emotions on any given day, whether you're an alcoholic or not. And being emotionally sober simply means that you are comfortable being present with all of your feelings without any one of them defining or controlling you. Developing emotional sobriety often involves several different activities. Working with a therapist to process emotional ups and downs, it can be one. You can journal to better understand your personal feelings. Learning how diet, exercise, and sleep habits can affect your mood. Building strong and emotionally honest relationships with friends can help as well. You can find hobbies and meaningful activities that provide a way to deal with stress. You can also practice mindfulness meditation and definitely exploring spirituality. As with other aspects of the recovery process, it's important to be patient with yourself. Breaking old habits is not easy. You can expect ups and downs along the way, but you will start to gradually notice that your overall outlook towards life is becoming more balanced. It is said that you stop growing emotionally when you started drinking. So if you started drinking at 14, you are 14 years old emotionally when you come to AA. And me personally, I live in steps 6, 7, 9, 6, 7, 10, 11, and 12. And I also add steps 8 and 9 in there because I had about 32 years in recovery when it occurred to me that I needed to make an amends to my sister. I didn't procrastinate for 32 years, otherwise I wouldn't have reached 32 years of sobriety. It just never bothered me. But as soon as it did start bothering me, I knew I had to do something about it. And I thank God that I was able to make the amends to her before she passed away about 5 years ago. So I live in steps 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And for me, steps 6 and 7 are the crux of the AA program. Because even though I haven't had a drinking problem in over 39 years, I still have every single character defect that I came in here with in 1982. And I have to put in just as much work as somebody with 39 days. I have to work on my character defects every day. All right, so decades into my sobriety, I used to say that I was hypersensitive. If I said hi to someone and they didn't respond correctly, it hurt my feelings. If they didn't respond with the right inflection in their voice, with the right body action, with the right eye contact, it really hurt my feelings. A decade or so ago, I amended the hypersensitivity to say that I was emotionally immature. That's the bottom line. I was emotionally immature, not hypersensitive. And again, I have to work just as much as someone with 39 days to ensure that I remain emotionally mature and continue to act like an adult. I did not know how to identify my feelings, let alone deal with them prior to coming into AA. And you've probably heard this before, and if you haven't, then you're in for a treat. The good thing about AA is that you get your feelings back. The bad thing about AA is that you get your feelings back. You will never hear me say that feelings are not facts. People commit murder over feelings. People commit suicide over hurt feelings. For me to get emotional sobriety, I had to be able to identify and then control my feelings and emotions. I cannot let someone live rent-free in my head. I can't let someone ruin my mood. I can't let someone drag me into an argument. Remember, it takes two to tango. I don't have to go to every dance I'm invited to. You can pick your battles. I can pick my battles. And definitely my sobriety has to come before anyone or anything. I could not stay married to my kid's mother because she really affected my emotional sobriety. And as much as I love my knucklehead son, he messes with my emotional sobriety. And the closer I am to people, the harder it is to ignore their infractions. Perhaps that's a problem in itself. But, as a human being, it is what it is. But learning from the past and moving forward. Recovery doesn't mean we will be free of problems and intense feelings. It means that we will discover new and better ways of dealing with them instead of turning to alcohol or drugs. We can further avoid relapse when we learn how to live life on life's terms rather than continue to think that life should conform to our expectations. And you can achieve true emotional sobriety. You can claim your experience. The good news is that regardless of what caused so much pain or emotional stress in your life, whether it be a significant loss, physical or verbal abuse, neglect, abandonment, adult child sexual molestation, rape, hardships related to alcoholism, or some other unspeakable traumas, we can always grow from the experience. But in order to grow from that experience, we need to learn how to claim our experience instead of letting our experience claim us. In AA, we say you can name it, claim it, and tame it. Name it, claim it, tame it. And a brilliant author and therapist, Tom Rutledge, put it this way: learn from the past and then get the hell out of there. Many of us are stuck in the past and don't know how to get the hell out of there. For alcoholics, that can be a dangerous place to be stuck in. And hopefully this podcast will give you a few tips on how to release the past so you can get on with living a life free from addiction to alcohol right here and right now. And if we are going to grow as healthy, sober individuals after a traumatic experience, we need to learn how to digest the experiences and feelings we had in the past. Today, there is much talk about a phenomenon that we have called post-traumatic growth, PTG. PTG is defined as the growth that can take place when we properly digest a traumatic experience and the emotions that accompany it. So let's talk about what we need to do to properly digest a trauma or any other painful or disturbing experience in order to maintain our sobriety. When we digest trauma to survive and grow, we reach the emotional sobriety. Sometimes in order to grow from a traumatic experience, we need to go back and relive those situations, feel those emotions. But this time we take care of the unfinished business. We say what we didn't say before. We stand for ourselves as we wish we could have. If we need to, we shout, scream, cry, rage, and declare we will never forgive the person who violated us. If that's what you need to do, that's what you do. When an experience is really toxic, we may even need to vomit to rid ourselves of the toxins. This is the process that will help us digest the traumatic experience. This is the process that will help us separate what will help us grow from what won't. We strive to find the words that will best reflect what we needed to say, but didn't because we were frozen with our fear and flooded with feelings. The good news is that regardless of what caused so much pain in our lives prior to our sobriety, we can always grow from that experience. And how do you maintain your emotional sobriety? One of the many ways I maintain my emotional sobriety is by utilizing my pause button. I definitely try to pause, and I do pause most of the time when agitated. Another is to meditate almost immediately. Meditation is simply relaxing your mind. Meditation is simply relaxing your mind, and we have a podcast on prayer and meditation made simply. We show how you can meditate while you're praying. We show how you can meditate at a red light or while waiting for the train to pass by. And another way to maintain emotional sobriety is to enforce boundaries with people. We basically all have the same boundaries, but it's a matter of which boundaries do we enforce with whom and to what degree. I also have to acknowledge my feelings and deal with them. I can't afford to stuff my feelings. I either deal with them now or it's worse if I deal with them later in the future. I try to address things as they happen. It's okay to pause when agitated, but the issue still needs to be addressed sooner than later. It loses potency when you address something hours or days later. I had to learn how to be assertive and use that assertiveness to deal with situations. And here are about 3 ways to maintain emotional sobriety. While some people think that the term emotional sobriety means feeling good while abstaining from drugs and alcohol, it's more accurate to define emotional sobriety as the ability to feel good and bad feelings. Alcohol abuse often starts and continues as a way of masking unwanted emotions such as anxiety, anger, disappointment, and fear. Maintaining emotional sobriety makes it possible for men and women to experience feelings without getting so overwhelmed that they turn to alcohol. Anyone finding it difficult to remain sober should explore these 3 ways to maintain emotional sobriety. There is a good chance that at least one strategy will work for you. 1. Practice mindfulness. Through daily meditation, people learn to recognize thoughts that lead to unwanted behaviors. Mindfulness focuses on remaining in the present. Through daily meditation, people learn to recognize thoughts that lead to unwanted behaviors. For example, an alcoholic may learn that thoughts of inadequacy lead to anxiety, which makes him or her want to drink. Practice mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, recovering alcoholics often discover that negative emotions don't last forever. This too shall pass, we say in AA. A person can learn to experience feelings like fear and anxiety without judging them. Knowing that the feelings will pass helps keep the emotions in perspective. Mindfulness also teaches people that they don't have to let thoughts dictate their behaviors. A woman who feels frightened doesn't have to drink. She can separate her internal behaviors from her external behaviors. Even if she cannot change her feelings, she can change how she responds to her feelings. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I believe it's the late Dr. Wayne Dyer that coined that phrase. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And popular mindfulness exercises include mindful breathing, mindful observation, mindful walking, mindful meditation, mindful eating, which just means focus on what you're doing. If you're washing the dishes, focus on washing the dishes. Focus on what you're doing. Another way to maintain your emotional sobriety is by exercising regularly. Regular exercise offers countless health benefits, including those related to mental health. Exercise and emotional sobriety have a chemical connection. When people exercise, their brains reduce endorphins, a neurotransmitter that interacts with opiate receptors to create feelings of safety, love, and relaxation. Exercise does more than increase endorphins. It also lowers levels of stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. Practically any type of exercise can help people maintain emotional sobriety. Men and women who are physically fit enough to walk or jog can get tremendous benefits from cardiovascular exercises. Those with health problems that prevent vigorous exercise can try options like gardening, stretching, and even household chores. And 3, join a reliable support network. Overwhelming emotions can make it difficult for recovering alcoholics to control their behaviors. Mindfulness works well, but sometimes people need to hear supportive advice from an outside voice. Joining a reliable support network is key to maintaining emotional sobriety. It's one of the reasons that AA and other 12-step programs are so popular. When a recovering alcoholic feels that he or she cannot resist using, the person can turn to others for help. You do not have to do this alone. 12-step groups aren't the only options for reliable support networks. Many people get emotional support from their families, church groups, and friends. Emotional sobriety helps to maintain overall sobriety. When a person learns to reduce negative emotions, accept emotions that they can't control, and ask for help from members of their support group, they dramatically improve their chances of staying sober for a lifetime, one day at a time. And why is emotional sobriety important? Again, I personally no longer have a drinking problem. I haven't had a drinking problem since 3 months into my sobriety. The obsession has been totally removed. And I know that alcohol, however, was never the problem. Alcohol kept me from dealing with the real problem, which is John. My emotional sobriety plays an integral part in my being happy, joyous, and free while not drinking. An emotional relapse usually occurs before an actual relapse does. Long before I physically pick up a drink, I will have picked it up mentally, and many things about me will change. My behavior will change, my language will change, my actions will change. A lot will unravel before I physically pick up that drink. So if I look for the changes, the subtle changes, I can get back on track before I physically pick up a drink. I have not yet relapsed, and relapse is not a requirement in Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the future, we'll be doing a podcast on relapse prevention. So, alcohol doesn't kick in until we stop drinking. That's why it is so hard to stay stopped without some help. And as you all know, alcoholism is a physical, spiritual, and mental disease. Your emotional sobriety helps with the spiritual and mental aspects of your disease. You may incorporate physical exercise to help you maintain that emotional balance, as we talked about it just a few minutes ago. The bottom line is that good emotional sobriety will help you not get too high or too low. It will help you stay focused on what's important in your life. Also, do your best not to compare your insides to someone's outside. Don't compare your inside to someone's outside. Everyone in this world has issues, no matter how much they look like they have the perfect life. Everyone has issues. And remember to pause when agitated and halt. HALT, halt. Don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Emotional sobriety will help you remain in fit spiritual condition. And this is from pages 84-85 of the big book. The 10th step promises, or what I call the guarantees. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And again, that's the 10 step promises on pages 84-85 of the big book, or what I call the guarantees. And this ends our Emotional Sobriety podcast. But before parting, I'd like you to get to know hope so that you can get to know recovery. Because if you have no hope, there might be no recovery. Be a hope dealer. And think about the hope that is conveyed in the passage below. This is from the Big Book, page 164, in A Vision for You. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. And let's take a moment to reflect on what we did here, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everyone for listening to the thru Recovery Life podcast on emotional sobriety. Once again, my name is John A., and I'm an alcoholic in West Palm Beach, Florida. My sobriety date is September 13th of 1982. You can visit our website at thezooCrew.org, thezooCrew.org. Please feel free to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can be notified when we upload new videos. Feel free to comment and share this video with others in recovery or looking to get sober. And drop us a line if there are any topics that you'd like to have covered in our podcast. Thank you, everybody.